Warning, this video contains spoilers.
Hi.
How long is this going to take?
あらあら。
Now, it took me around 4 hours and 48 minutes to go through the story in this collab. And of course, I waited for every voice line to finish before proceeding to the next line of dialogue. So, let's first get to the recap.
Okay, but like in English, like what would that mean?
We first talked to Robin, where she told us the Holy Grail War already happened. Wait, what? After starting to relive the memory, Stella got interviewed by Sampo and Hook to entertain their screen times. Then we switch over to old OT explaining about the lore. And we have Scott.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Yapping for over 20 minutes because he wants to win the war since he's the master of assassin who is Mr. Rekka, or rather under a new name here. But the unplayable duo is unfortunately facing playable characters. There is no hope for you, my man. Aventurine, Robin, Boothill, and even our adorable conductor is joining. Boy, I sure do hope Pom Pom plays a significant role in the story here since they were chosen as the master. Anyway, back to Stella's POV. Our summoning failed, we got mocked by Scott, he chickened out anyway, we chased into an ambush, got saved by Lancer, but now Lancer wants to take us out instead. And then our actual servant came in, which then proceeds to reveal her true name immediately to us. Wait, why are you telling us your true name now? And holy shit, Altria? What the God damn it, Mushroom Man. Saber now wants to eat, cause of course she does. And we switch over to the men's perspective, where we found out that Aventurine is the master of Archer, Lancer is Boothill's servant, and soon afterwards Robin has Caster, who is Canis? Apparently they used to call her this, but now she prefers to be called this. Back to the MC, Stella brought Saber sightseeing before stopping by at a restaurant to eat 100 fucking burgers. Andy? Is that you? Which are paid by Robin, and they all decided to make an alliance. Wait, already? The men's side and the women got called by Scott, who impersonated as each other through a hilariously long text message, and were dragged into Assassin's domain expansion, which prevented any voices to come out from the victims due to lack of budget. I mean, his noble phantasm, which involves the setting off
The Silent Horror Show!
This shit went on for over an hour, and the major events that happen here are us joining up with Robin and Caster, where Caster proves to be stronger than she claimed to be. Saber using Naruto's Talk no Jutsu and rode a dinosaur. What in the hell? They actually used this part of the Fate franchise?
100円ください。
お金いるの?
Robin got 3-beat, but much worse because they're now just objects instead of living beings. Caster then leaves Robin's side to switch over to OT's team for some reason, and Aventurine used the opportunity to fool Assassin by pretending to betray the alliance and having Archer snipe his ass. They broke out of the silent shit show, and Assassin repented. Meanwhile, Lancer confronted OT where he warned them about the Holy Grail but got off-screened by Caster. The old man then asked Miss Note to hold off the alliance, which she obliged by basically enacting an infinite Tsukuyomi onto them, where Saber and Stella got dragged back to... Wait, isn't that Finance?
バカな。どうしてブリテンに？ありえない。
No. Okay then? Saber proceeded to share about her backstory and started to question herself on her decision to become the king of Britain, while Stella was dragged back to Herta's space station, where she didn't join the Astra Express and stayed as an overworked researcher. Eventually, the two overcame the illusion through willpower and they beat Caster, who was then released by Robin through her command spells soon afterwards. Next, the group confronted old OT and they learned that he basically wants money. Huh, sounds like that way. OT summoned the bug, to which we can easily solve with the Flammenwerfer. Saber did the and we beat each other goodbye. OT wanted to reminisce back on the old times with Mr. Rekka and Miss Note, who's actually Miss Asna now, but they basically said "fuck you" to him.
But wait, there's more.
We've had 6 masters so far, right? Stella, Robin, Boothill, Aventurine, Scott, and OT. Who's the last? That's right! King Pom Pom, who has Misha as rider. And what did they do all this time? Nothing. Just Pom Pom sharing stories about Astro Express to Misha. And lastly, more screen time from Robin and off-screen from Sampo, and the story ends. Well, this is a collab of all time, alright. But, contrary to what you want to believe, even this has the good and bad parts. So let's start with the bright side first.
I actually like that one.
Firstly, gotta hand it to Saber here. I appreciate that her story was done well enough for me to connect with her, and in some cases I wish to do it literally. Especially in the quote-unquote Britain scene here. Putting aside the reused assets, it's actually quite a good scene, and made even better with the Seder doll here, which was totally unexpected but not unwelcomed. In addition, her introduction was like a one-to-one shot, so that's awesome, and I gotta give credit a bit to her design here because we got to see Saber's back shot, and I'm all for that. I blame Cypher for this because she awakened something within me that I never knew existed. Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Armpits are still the best though. The next good thing, which also ties nicely to Saber's story, is Stella being trapped in Caster's infinite Tsukuyomi. It basically explores the theme of regret from not making the right decisions, which kinda relates to the relationship between Archer and Shiro in Unlimited Blade Works. Oh, and the art direction of having all those NPCs trying to gaslight you, that was done very well. I love that. The scene with Himiko also stings a bit. You know, seeing Stella is missing out all the adventures with her second family. I did find it weird that Archer and Lancer were in Stella's dream, which is fine because we were in Saber's dream, but both Stella and Saber knew each other here, yet Archer and Lancer didn't recognize Stella. It's like they're literally just NPCs replaced with fake characters. Speaking of Lancer, he doesn't die here, and I'm happy for that. They did my boy Kukulane some justice, cause he just always fucking dies every single time. I mean, it fits his mythology, but give the dude a break, Mushroom Man, piss off. After that, Aventurine's quote-unquote betrayal scene here surprised me. In a good way, of course. I didn't expect him to communicate well with Archer without directly sharing his plan, and yeah, they defeated Assassin because of that. It really gives off that if you want to fool your enemies, you must first fool your allies kind of thing. Speaking of Archer, oh my god, I love him the most in the story. The way he's just fed up with everything is perfect. He acted exactly how I expected him to be, and that also applies the same to Lancer and most of Saber. I'll get to that later. Oh, and Archer's jab towards Gilgamesh here is awesome. Speaking of the asshole, I find his character to be kinda paralleling to OT in the end due to how Gilgamesh's personality basically is and OT's speech here. In addition, the parasite part? Is that referring to Zoken? If you know, you know. Poor Sakura. Another person that's paralleling a fake character is Scott, who is similar to Shinji actually. Both are like the bad guy in the beginning and becomes cowardly in the end. The connection is there, but I feel for Scott more here to be honest, because Shinji, I'm telling you this, that character can f***ing burn in the depths of hell for all I care. If you know what he did to Sakura, if you know what he attempted to do to Rin, you'd feel the same. Whereas Scott, well, he just wants that promotion, man, come on. I understand his vengeful feelings towards Stella due to
Woof woof! Ow!
but hey, Scott's not really downright evil here, and him trying to climb the corporate ladder is absolutely fine. Another part that's absolutely fine is Caster's role in the story here. I actually felt sympathetic for her backstory, especially her wishes to reclaim her own name, which is copyrighted. In addition, this CG here gave enough of an emotional impact for the two characters. Lastly, the scene that is the best to me in this story also involves two characters. And it's the moment with Pom Pom and Misha. Pom Pom sharing the current stories to Misha was very touching, and why I felt this way is because of the build-up we've had throughout the Penacony patches. You know, with Misha being Mikhail, who's known as the father of Penacony and was a trailblazer himself. That being said, this is where the problem arises, because despite being the best scene in my opinion, it's out of place. They were not even participating in the war in spite of being a master-servant pair here. So, here's where we're getting to the bad parts.
So wrong. This is so wrong.
Firstly, let's start with the technical parts. Little nitpicks here and there. This camera angle is just weird, and it lasted for 3 lines of dialogue, which feels even more weird when you want to wait for each voice line to finish. Lancer got a black screen with white text for his disappearance when he could have just used this approach instead. The overall facial expressions are still mediocre throughout, which is why I believe that they should add eye animations now, like I've said in my previous video. And lastly, the reused assets. I don't mind Penacony being reused and even ID's Elysia itself in general, but the whole collab story just feels like 95% of it is Stariel's assets and only 5% is Fate's. I also don't mind 4 out of the 7 servants here are from Penacony because I understand it's an IP thing and it's a welcome surprise to even have Lancer here, but for God's sake, Caster is just a younger Kyannis. I really don't want to be reminded of that bitch anymore. As for ID's Elysia, As I've said, I don't mind it in general, but at least change the layout or something. Because the only thing they changed is to not allow you to go into the direction heading towards the Greek-themed building and just slap Excalibur in the middle here. All I can say for this is that either Final is actually British all this time, or Saber is Greek. Nasu, you might want to fact check this, my guy. I think the Hoyo writers f***ed up your lore. Now, the writing aspect. What was the point of having Pom Pom and Misha here? Yes, the scene is great by itself, but them being the master and servant respectively added nothing to the plot in this collab. After that, another flaw is Scott. Him being an antagonist is inherently fine, but not so much in this collab. He was given way too much focus and screen time. But the thing is, I don't give a shit about him. I don't want to give a shit about him in this crossover. Is this the Scott collab? He can have his redemption arc sometime else. In fact, I would welcome it, but not in this highly likely one-time event. I want to experience more from the collab characters. Hell, Scott has more fucking screen time than Lancer. Which leads us to the next point. Now, despite Lancer getting to be alive, which is a good ending of course, it feels like he's underused here. Hoyo made the effort to create an in-game model for him, but we can neither play him nor fight him. Like seriously, during the Saber intro, that scene could have been a good time to fight Lancer. You've even made bosses out of playable characters, Hoyo. To name a few: Best Girl, Fei Xiao, Firefly, and even this little shit that I keep on losing my 50-50s to. Hell, I even thought of another scenario where Lancer could be a boss fight. Caster in UBW has a rule breaker, right? The caster here could have had something similar and steal Lancer to be her servant or something, and then we have to fight him. That could have given a much more emotional impact than what we got from the reused bug boss. This ability will of course be identical to the UBW caster, but it's much better to have reused powers from Fate rather than reused assets from Star Rail, especially in a collab that involves the Fate series. Next, the dreadful silent quote-unquote horror segments in this story. I'm gonna be brutally honest here. For most of the time, this muted section is shit. It's just shit. Never do this again, Hoyo, please. And whoever thought of the idea should get fired. Okay, that was too mean considering that the idea was not that bad, but the execution was terrible. I mean, the beginning was fine. There were some entertaining moments like the acknowledgement of the subtitles, and even Archer had a pretty badass moment here mentioning his experiences. But what could have made the scene infinitely better, Hoyo? Fucking voice acting. What could have made the Robin pieces funnier? Fucking voice acting. What could have made Caster's betrayal scene more impactful? Fucking voice acting. If I wanted to experience the kind of storytelling you gave me here, I'd rather go read a visual novel. Hell, even visual novels usually have voice acting. Then, yeah, I would rather go read a book, man. Have you run out of money, my dear multi-billion-dollar company? Do you still need to scam more people to pull for characters from a useless path? The anime adaptation jokingly got the nickname Unlimited Budget Works, which is deservingly so. But this collab is the limited budget works, and rightfully so. And bro, this whole muted segment is supposed to be a silent horror film, but most of the time it's comedic. Actually, worse, it's a joke. Oh, so scary. And what's with Saber riding the dinosaur here? It just looks silly, and at this point, you might as well just call it the Carnival Phantasm collab instead of Unlimited Blade Works. I don't feel the seriousness of the situation here. UBW, or rather the original Fate trilogy, has a dark setting to it. But most of everything in this collab just feel casual and easygoing. I'm not saying that the series doesn't have relatively light-hearted moments at all. In fact, the original Fate trilogy even has sex scenes which are universally considered to be out of nowhere. This meme is proof of that. But this silent section is just much worse. It overstayed its welcome by a very large margin. Like I said, if you want Saber to be temporarily part of the rider class, just call it the Carnival Phantasm collab instead. Speaking of Saber, we're heading to the last point. It's just unfitting that Saber is the main focus of this particular crossover, and we all know the reason why. Saber is more popular than Archer, and the devs only care about profits, because the greater the popularity, the higher the cash grab. So I have a suggestion. Instead of naming it Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works collab, just name it Fate Stay Night. The UBW route is more focused towards Archer and his connection with Shiro. And if Shiro was in this collab, Rin needs to be in too, since Unlimited Blade Works is also Rin's romance route. I understand we didn't get both because Hoyo would have to pay more money to Nasu, and we definitely don't want that, right? But for God's sake, give more attention to Archer, man. I don't pull for dudes out of principle, and I still believe Archer should have the spotlight rather than Saber. And oh my god, he didn't even get to use his reality marble in the story. Not even once. Saber and even fucking Lancer, who's not even playable, got to use their noble phantasms. Where is the Unlimited Blade Works? Oh, I know. In the goddamn trailer.
Unlimited Blade Works!
The trailer had more UBW, in fact, more Fate in it than the actual story event. And speaking of the trailer, where the hell was Sparkle this time? Oh my... Let's just go to the patch opinions.
It actually was kind of fun.
What I'm gonna say for this part just involves the collab. For the overall patch itself, I've already talked about it in my previous video. Now, despite the upsetting story we got, this combat event was actually quite nice. So that's a bit of silver lining at least. It's like another version of the Galactic Baseballer event, which is honestly one of my personal favorites. Plus, Albert's commentary after you finish a battle is entertaining. Another thing, why did you put us against our mother, Hoyo? How dare you? That was pure evil. Another good thing is how nice Saber is to play. I don't have her yet, but Hoyo did give you a moment to use her in the main story at the final battle, if I recall correctly. It was good of them to do that because that really added to the immersion. That being said, I do have 2 points that I'm disappointed with in this patch. One is that Lancer is not playable. Why go through all that trouble of making his in-game model and not completely follow through with it? Just make him a 4-star and put him in Archer's and Saber's banners. God knows why I'm asking for a 4-star here. Next, the lack of events. We only have 2 events this patch, which is the norm now for Star Rail, and it's just saddening. However, I think I understand why they're not releasing more of them. In my opinion, they're fully embracing that Star Rail is just a side game now in order to not take too much of their time and or to make way for their other games. I mean, Hoyo still has Honkai Impact 3rd, Genshin Impact, and Zenless Zone Zero. I guess it's to not cannibalize the rest of the IPs so that the ecosystem is more stable, but I can't say for certain. If you guys know more, let me know in the comment section down below. What I worry about is that having lesser events would lead to lower amount of stellar jades to be farmed. And if it's true, then we really have a problem. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's end this.
Oh, I'm glad this is over.
Oh no, the story in this Fate collab is mid. If I were to rate it as a Star Rail enjoyer, it'd be a 7, but as a Fate enjoyer, 5 maximum. Mix those two and divide, you get a 6. It's not the worst thing out there, of course, but it's definitely not good either. Regardless, I do think the Mushroom Man profited from this. He got money and he got more exposure to the series. Mid-exposure is still exposure, as if the franchise isn't one of the most popular already. The visual novel enthusiast in me would recommend it as well. If you want to experience Unlimited Blade Works, or rather the original Fate trilogy, in the proper way, go read the VM. The remastered version is under 30 euros in Steam, but that price is much more worth than any amount of money you might spend on gacha games in general. Anyway, that's all from me. Hope you guys can like and subscribe. Later, addicts. Oh, and if you do want to get into the visual novel, read the original. It's much better because it has